Good morning, preppers. Happy prepping day to you. Listen, my voice is returning, which is good because this weekend we're going to be in Knoxville, Tennessee at the Self-Reliance and Simple Life Experience. You'll see right here the card for that, but also in the description below. I hope you can come, and I would love to meet you if you're in that area. All right, but today, time is short because we're going to talk about one of my favorite things on the planet, meat. I am such a meat eater, and being on the keto diet, we've lost well over 50 pounds now. And what a great diet. You can eat meat and lose weight. Who knew? But that's what works well for me. And therefore, I want to keep eating my meaty diet and make me happy. But there seems to be, and you can correct me on this if you disagree, there seems to be a war on meat. It seems to be they're trying to take us from eating meat and potatoes kind of people to try to go with a vegetarian or vegan diet with everything. And that's what it seems to me anyway. And maybe it's just in my mind because there is definitely an increase in the amount of fake meat, I guess, if you want to call it that. The restaurants have like Impossible burgers and stuff. I remember when I was in college, I tried a Boca burger because it was like all the new rage. It was the most disgusting thing I ever ate in my life. I've heard they've gotten better now, but I'll probably never try one. So that jumps into our first article. Prepare yourself for an avalanche of fake meat. Yep, that's what we're talking about here. That's funny. And here they go through different things to talk about different types of meat and products and stuff, like Upside Foods is actually making its fake chicken and such. And this video is less about the companies that are making this stuff like Beyond Meat and Impossible Foods, but more about why are they doing this? Why are they really pushing this? And we definitely see an increase, obviously, in making money during this time. But I don't know, maybe you're like me, where it's not that I'm against trying like an Impossible Burger or something like that. I'm not against trying it, but I like my meat. How many of you are like that? And it's almost like, I don't know if anybody who even wants to go to, I guess it's Burger King or whatever, McDonald's may have one too, and get a fake burger. Or maybe you can get the fake burgers at home. Personally, I'm like, why? I like my meat. And since I don't know anybody else who loves these kind of things, it seems to me they're almost like pushing it on us rather than actually being a consumer-driven thing. That's what it seems like to me anyway. And I'd definitely like to have your input on this. Of course, Bill Gates has his hand on this, so therefore I'm sure it's being pushed on us. But there's only one thing I really want to point out on this as we get on the article. It does talk about on here that we're talking about as far as like global warming. They're saying that there's so much global warming because of, for example, just beef. Now, again, me personally, I don't believe in that at all. I think that's a bunch of garbage. I think this whole climate change and global warming thing, even if the earth is warming globally, we have seen historically trends of warming and cooling all the time. And trying to make it so we need to, everybody switch to solar, switch to wind turbines, and switch to fake meat and all this stuff. I think, personally, like the reason Bill Gates isn't doing this, I don't think it's nefarious. I think it's because he wants even more billions of dollars to be able to pad his own pockets and be the richest man on the planet for that power reason. I don't think they're trying to do it simply just to change us. I think it's all for the almighty dollar. I think it's a greedy reason. That's me personally, though. There is something else I want to show you in this article. If you go down, it says right here, livestock contributes to 14.5% of the world's induced greenhouse gases. Again, we talked about that, but look at this. In addition, livestock use is about 15% of the Earth's land for grazing. In other words, we actually need 15% of the actual farmland or Earth's land for that, for the cows to live, to walk around on to eat grass, and 40% of cropland to grow their feed. Because here in Michigan, like, for example, my neighbor has some cows. He doesn't actually have them graze at all. He has a pen they live in, and he takes good care of them, but he actually buys hay from down the road, and he actually has to use other people's land to bring it in. So we're looking at 40% of cropland just needed for the cows. 15% for the cows, 40, that's 55%. So over half of the land we're looking at specifically is just to maintain cattle. Now, in the United States, we produce enough food to feed the entire planet. But on that note, if you give that argument's sake, well, think of it this way. If we actually have the majority of our farmland, practically speaking, going to feed cattle, well, if we actually just change that, and so that way we didn't actually feed the cattle, but fed the people directly, how would it actually benefit us? Of course, we're getting into overpopulation theories here, which I don't subscribe to as well. But let me go ahead and show you this. For now, the environmental change of plant-based foods is best demonstrated by weight. Okay, it takes 40 kilograms of plants to produce 1 kilogram of cow, of beef. So it's a 40-to-1 ratio. So if you want 40 kilograms of plants, you'll get 1 kilogram of beef. While 1 kilogram of plants, obviously, is 1 kilogram of food. Okay, so this does make sense to me, and I understand where they're coming from on this. But when it comes to consumer-driven economics, it doesn't matter. Because if you actually have people want to pay the extra money for beef, then let them pay the extra money for beef. Because in other words, think of it this way: let's say a pound of food costs $1. It doesn't matter what pound if you want to actually have 1 pound of beef. Well, that's going to be $40 because it took 40 pounds of plants to get there. Think of it that way. So, if you want to be the person to pay the $40 for the beef, then pay the $40 for the beef. But if you actually want to increase the amount of food just overall for a planet that's starving because we don't have enough food for the planet, it would be smarter to actually just produce plants. Because you can actually, in essence, produce 40 times as much food if you simply just gave the people the plants in the first place. Which makes sense. If we actually had a problem with food, with overcrowding, which we don't. Because again, in the United States, we produce enough food for the entire planet. It's just a matter of logistics and dynamics. But that's not even counting other countries producing their own food as well. And if you're thinking about there's actually too many people on the planet, that's a load of garbage too. Did you know you could actually take every person on the planet? We're talking about man, woman, child, babies even, doesn't matter. Give every single person a 2,000 square foot home. Every person, even a baby, gets a 2,000 square foot home. And all of those homes would fit in the state of Alaska. That shows how much there really isn't population problems on the planet. If you ever drive across the country, you'll see it's incredible how much land there really is. It's incredible. I think what the problem is people who live in the cities think there's a population problem because they live in the cities. And there's a lot of overcrowding in cities, but that's their choice per se. Think of it that way, to live in the cities. There's lots of land out there where people live. So this overcrowding business is not true. Not having enough food is not true. Now, in the future, that may change. But when you actually talk about as far as like when you look at the growth charts and reproductive charts, we are not getting bigger society. Our growth rate is actually dropping. We may actually still have more people coming on the planet, but the amount of babies that people are having is dropping significantly. Okay, it's coming from somewhere. Think about that. All right, let's jump back to our article. The next one, Our Meatless Future, How the 2.7 Trillion Global Meat Market Gets Disrupted. That right there should kind of show you what's happening, because they're saying, oh, look, how do you disrupt a $2.7 trillion business? The question shouldn't be how. The question should be, why would you want to? Why can't you just let the beef producers be beef producers and chicken producers, etc.? But when they actually talk about disrupting them, we are seeing a shift from real meat into either lab meat or, plant-based impossible meats and Boca burgers, etc. like that. We're definitely seeing that happening. All right, if you go down, it talks about meat plant closures. It says these are actually because of the pandemic. We're seeing a lot more problems with this. Of course, we've seen problems with processing plants burning down and those kind of things too. I mean, kind of think of it as, go along with my thinking here. It's one thing trying to tell the public, hey, public, listen, it's important you start eating meat from a petri dish, or, it's more important you actually just eat fake meat and, basically squash up vegetables with some seasonings to make you think it's a burger. How do you convince people of doing that? There's always going to be people who will do that, by the way. But how do you convince everybody else? Oh, it's simple. Let's destroy their meat supplies in the first place. Then they'll say, oh, you know what? Since my burger is no longer available, then yeah, go ahead and give me a fake burger. It's better than nothing. And so when we actually destroy processing plants and cause problems through a pandemic and everything else, you're giving people no choice at that point. If you give them a choice, I think the people want meat. Because I don't know about you, but not only, I wouldn't mind tasting an Impossible Burger just to see what it tastes like. I really don't want that food. I don't. Okay, but how many of you know people who really enjoy the Impossible, it's called the Impossible Whopper, a meatless burger. How many people out there know somebody who enjoys it, or maybe you do? I'm very curious. Because let's say you have 100 friends, I would actually guess or wager that maybe 1 out of the 100 actually enjoy it. Well, if they're trying to shut down our beef businesses and trying to increase fake beef, why is it they're doing that and pushing this agenda when then only 1 out of 100 enjoy that? Maybe I'm wrong with those numbers. Maybe you actually know 2 out of 100, or I'd like to see what you think about that, because it doesn't seem to be reality as far as how many people truly want it. I think they're trying to push this on the consumer. All right, anything else on here? Now, let's look at this. Big Meat is gobbling up fake meat companies. And this is actually interesting too, because You would think that certain companies like big manufacturers like Conagra would actually go against these fakeless meats, but they're jumping right in on it also. If you actually go through like Kellogg Company, which is Morningstar Brands, they're actually really trying to switch over to, also like Morningstar, Conagra, Gardein are all trying to switch over to fake meats. Very interesting. The rise of the meatless meat explained. Now, we're not going to go through this whole article. We'll skim it. But I want you to see some things on here. Okay, and what we see specifically on this is like we see things like Burger King, Qdoba, KFC. I didn't know KFC had something like that. But they're really trying to push these fake meats. And where is this coming from? Why is this happening? Number one, what are meat alternatives? We know what they are. Either lab grown or they just squeeze veggies together. Okay, do they actually taste like meat? Who cares? I'm not going to eat them anyway. This is the thing right here. I've been hearing a lot about meatless meat today. Why now? Well, they talk about a live animal market in Wuhan may have sparked the pandemic, and they talk about repeatedly risking diseases that leap from animals to humans. I'll be honest with you, the way that the FDA monitors it, the way that things are done as far as meat processing, this almost never happens. And it's just the latest of reasons we need to rethink our food system. No, I like the way it is. Thank you. And they go through talking about basically it's just better for us, smarter for us to actually have fakeless meats or fake meats. But then here's the question. I like this. This is from Reddit, which obviously I don't use this as a source, but is very interesting to bring up thoughts. Why do elite want us to stop eating meat? And that seems to be the whole thing right there. Because when you think about this, it does pose that question. Why are they pushing this on us? Because listen, I'll be honest with you, out of the thousands of people who watch this channel, there may be a few of you, and please let me know, who are like, oh, I prefer to have the vegan burger because maybe you're a vegan. I prefer to actually have meatless because my cholesterol, which let's not even get into the falseness that actually eating red meat causes high cholesterol. That's not true, by the way, not even close. There's a whole bunch of like misinformation there. Let's forget about there's just a few people. I would guess most people who are watching this video right now are not one of those ones who wants to eat fake meat, but yet it seems to be pushed on us. And this guy from Reddit nailed this perfectly. He thinks it's two reasons. One, meat is needed for reproductive reasons. And that is absolute truth right there, by the way. Not even talking about simply just increase in proteins and less carbs, by the way, because having a high carb diet while you're pregnant is one of the things that leads to gestational diabetes. Okay, which actually leads to type 2 diabetes, where, they're connected together. It's clinically proven. And so you'll often have it where doctors, if it's a good doctor anyways, an OBGYN will say, you want to go to a more higher protein diet while you're pregnant because the baby needs the proteins. And you can't get a better protein diet than meats. I don't care if you're talking about certain plants that actually are rich in amino acids. Meats are better as far as the quality of amino acids. That's all there is to it. It's been clinically proven. So he says also vegan diets keep you malnourished and docile. In short, depopulation and control. Very interesting hypothesis, my Reddit friend, because when you look as far as meats compared with like vegans and vegetarians, I said this once on the channel a long time ago and a vegan wanted to kill me. But when you actually look at studies, it shows that people who are on veganism, especially vegans who have children who actually want their kids to be vegan as well, will often be much smaller stature than the general population. I'm not saying that's good, I'm not saying that's bad. I'm simply just making an observation that's been proven that kids who don't have the right amount and quantity and quality of proteins coming in will be smaller. And so our Reddit friend is right. They actually will be smaller, more docile, and he says it's because more of control of the population. Not population control, even though that's the reproductive part, but control of the population. It's a population that's more easily manageable. If you don't believe me on this, let's go ahead and look at our last article on here. It's actually a scientific study. Major correlation of male height, a study of 105 countries. This study shows that nutrition in the examined regions consists of, three things: rice, wheat, and milk. But here's what they found. Male height in developing countries correlates with protein quantity. In other words, if you have more protein in a developing country, you're going to have a taller population. However, if you already have a developed country, male height in the developed country correlates with protein quality. Is it better meats? So if we're talking about limiting our proteins from meat, It literally can make it so male height or the people are going to be smaller. Low protein quality can explain the unexpectedly short height in Asian countries, which, you've probably seen this before, that it talks about in these countries, like certain Asian countries, you'll find the population's short. And it's simply because of the quantity and quality of proteins. Very interesting. In fact, I don't know if you know it, but in the United States, I think these are the numbers, you can correct me on this, in 1900, the average male population was 5'5". But today, it's like 5'10", pushing 5'11". Why is that? The amount of proteins. We have proteins everywhere. Now, granted, we actually have even more modern diets, which are just like the most worst thing on the planet. You'll find somebody be like, you know what? I'm really hungry. I don't feel like going out to Taco Bell. I don't feel like getting a burger. I don't feel like making anything at home, which is happening more. Just give me that bag of chips over there. I'll just eat chips for dinner. And when you do that, you're not getting any proteins. So you're actually finding the protein quality for the people is decreasing, but their obesity is drastically increasing because of the amount of carbohydrates that people are stuffing in, not to mention processed carbs. So overall, no matter what your conclusion is as far as why it's happening, fake meats, either plant-based meats or lab-grown meats, seem to be being pushed on us. And that's what I see here. So when it comes to Goshen prepping, even though this may actually be on the kind of like the fringe of preparedness, it is on preparedness for the fact that we need to be prepared for what's coming. If you're a meat eater like me, you need to understand what possibly could be coming because of this. So, stockpiling cans of chicken or cans of beef may not be your best bet, but if you have a place and actually grow your own chickens or your own cow, that's the way to go. But the way things are going, that could very well change too, because we're already starting to see certain governments, like in Europe, are limiting the amount of cattle and such people can have. Our freedoms to be able to eat what we want to are dwindling in the name of science and climate change and things that are not necessarily caused by mankind or the farts of cows. So, very interesting topic. But if anything, I really want to see your input on this. Why don't you go ahead and leave some comments below? I would love to hear what you think. If you agree with me or don't agree with me, I don't care either way. I'm just really curious to see if you also believe that it's being pushed on us. Okay? Keep prepping the way you want to prep, and hopefully we can get through all this. Thanks for watching.